Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics. And in this fourth part of my talk with Freddie Feltham, we tried to turn our attention to the solutions to the problem of disinformation on social media and this gap between politics and information. Little hint, we did not come up with a silver bullet, but did discuss what would be some of the obvious ways of dealing with the issues, but the challenges to it. We also discuss why it is that politicians don't seem motivated to apply the solutions, even though it would ultimately be in their interest, as well as how politicians are actually eroding trust in themselves with reactionary attitudes towards information on social media that they might not like. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I think. Sorry, you go.
I was
Go.
going to
Go.
say, so what do you? So if we identify a couple of the problems that I've sort of tried to identify. So first of all, from the political groups, the big political groups with the resources, who are not engaging on social media, and then from the ones who are engaged on social media and are successful at it, but they're independent. What are some potential solutions to sort of close the gap then, to improve the quality of information on social media, if that is the town square where people are going to be?
Yeah, I think there's got to be a really strong look at social media literacy in education. I mean, if it is the case that everyone is going to be on this thing, people need to have more training to be able to think skeptically of
Yeah.
the information that
So
they receive online.
yeah. So critical thinking is like it's big. It's big in Finland. They're bordering Russia. They sort of need it. Um, so critical thinking would be absolutely boss. It would take several generations though.
Yeah,
Labour
it will.
tried it when they were last in a bit half-assed, but they did, and then it was instantly abolished by the Tories, and the same thing. So that would be a long-term thing if you could bed it in, but every time a right-wing government comes in, they will instantly chop it. So what?
Yeah, I mean, the thing you've got the right will also have to acknowledge is that it's not useful to the right for many people to be believing false things. I mean, it
Well,
is for
they
them
think it
right.
is.
It is for them right now, but I just think if you universalize it, I'm not sure it is. Unless the right genuinely think, and it's not, they're not free speech advocates, right? They're
Well,
brainwashing advocates, which maybe they are. I mean, like you could say that some people probably are,
I,
some people are useful
my
idiots.
my attitude is, I think there are people on the right who are very genuine about their views. I think the people who rise to the top are not.
Okay.
So I think the people who tend to rise to the top in politics in general, but I would certainly say to the top in the right, because the right, I always see the difference between the left and the right. The left is about, I'm not saying there's no hate on the left, but the left is more about common cause, whereas the right is all about the self. Greed is good. And I think the right are more comfortable and less resistive to the most grasping getting to the top. And
I mean,
also,
I
that I
I
think
think
they're better at greater good arguments, justifying things they know are wrong because they think that it serves the greater good for being in power.
yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, look. Maybe. I mean, you're potentially straying into middle class bullshit territory there, Phil. But no, but I'm joking. It's an interesting idea, isn't it? The idea that politicians at the top are all of the opinion that ends justify means. I mean, I think I'm not necessarily convinced that it's purely just the right thing. I think it's very possible for
Oh no, no, I get
leftists and
it.
centre
I
left
can see it in
politicians
Labour.
to
We can
to
see
do
it in
it as well.
Labour in terms of that, and they still think, the over the disability cuts, they still think that it was the MPs that were wrong because they don't understand the economics, the silly bunnies.
Yeah.
And that was a greater good argument. That was an argument that we need to get the money from the path of least resistance, even though they
Yeah.
knew that that was not really where they should be taking the money from.
But look, I'm not going to say to you, Phil, that I've got a complete solution here.
Oh, that's
There's,
disappointing.
there's just a few kind of intuitions that I have. Number one is that it's very challenging in the current circumstances to advocate for strong state control and regulation of the digital media environment in view of stuff like what's happened in Gaza. Because what for most people, what I think they've seen is that if in times gone by, Israel were able to put a complete blanket ban on any information being able to get out, right? No journalists are coming in. It's a complete dead zone. No one knows what's coming out. That's not happened this time.
No.
And as a result of that not happening, people have been more aware, where the mainstream narrative in particular has been doing some reputation washing for Bibi Netanyahu and his regime and government. And if that is the case, which it is, we're now seeing what the consequences of that are, which is that then you have distrust not just in mainstream media, but also within establishment parties. And the Dems right now, you can see it happening in real time, are acknowledging that that's a big problem. Like if they've got to say that we are just, blanket allies of Israel, whatever they do, then they're not going to be able to create a genuine tent to win the next election. No. And so now they're saying, actually, we need to be really honest about what the problems are with AIPAC and the outsized influence that it has over US foreign policy. So that is a massive beat shift in the space of a year compared to what they were saying before that election campaign, right? So that is a point of democratic accountability that has actually been enabled for a democratized information environment. The other side of the ledger is that there's plenty of nonsense, lies, propaganda that are being propagated at a much, much higher rate. So how do you square the circle around regulation? It's not completely obvious to me that how you do that. But I think what is clear, and this perhaps should be the guiding principle when they're thinking of how you regulate and understand tech, is that the communications environment that we're currently living in is so polarizing that people are living in worlds of alternative facts and alternative realities, such that it's impossible for them to agree on anything. If you're talking about every person has a polar opposite who thinks the absolute inverse of those beliefs.
We don't have a common anchor on reality.
No, that's a problem. That is actually a problem, because human beings need to have a sense of, a place where they're working from to be able to communicate properly with one another. And I'm not convinced yet that being a free speech absolutist online is the right thing for us to do, if essentially all it is doing is leading us to a place of greater conflict, which I fear it is.
It is. It absolutely is, because the problem with people abuse it. First of all, I'm not sure there are any genuine free speech absolutists, because when you look at them, they always seem quite happy to suppress other views that don't agree with theirs. They just use it as a way to bypass accountability, because it's easier to come up with something that sounds simple and doesn't. It goes back to your latest couple of videos on your channel about the wealth taxes. It goes back to people. It's a way of saying this will provide a massive boost to you, and it comes at zero cost to you. I mean, anyone who offers you something that will give you a huge improvement in any aspects of their life and comes at zero cost is probably not being that honest, but it's compelling. People like the idea of it. So I guess the conclusion really is people are going to increasingly use social media to get their news. But it's easy to be cloistered within echo chambers in that environment, and ones where information isn't reliable. So common understanding of reality is warped. However, politicians are arguably making this work. Not just in the lack of regulation, but in trying to sanitize certain topics in a way which makes it obvious they're trying to sanitize certain topics and therefore mislead the rest of us. And it just reduces trust in politics and the establishment further, which drives more people to independence, or those who pretend to be independent, online, who may or may not be telling the truth. It's getting to be a bit of an old mess, isn't it? But as before, if you want to check out Freddie's work, link in the description below. But let me know what you think in the comments. And for more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching. And until next time, I'll see you later.